Thank you very much. I was going to say it would have been great and the icebreakers to be up first, but yeah, hopefully, leaving it with you at the end, it'll be the first thing you think of next time you engage with learning and teaching. But anyway, in this presentation, the University of Exeter Learning Design team, we're going to share how we've successfully incorporated UDL principles in the design of icebreaker style activities in the University of Exeter's online courses. And we're also going to discuss how we've developed a workshop that promotes and supports the implementation of inclusive icebreaker style activities all across the university. Now, I think as we've probably heard before about UDL, it's all about breaking down barriers and enabling all students to engage with their learning and teaching. And this talk is mainly focused on the UDL theme of engagement, and removing the barriers to engagement is a vital step in making learning irresistible to everybody. I was fortunate to go to the WAGOLLs conference in London earlier in the year, and one of the key themes there was the evidence that students are lonely due to the multitude of pressures that they are under at the moment. And well-designed icebreakers will support students to build links with each other through shared experiences, interests and passions, but inclusive icebreakers will make sure that is for everybody. Now, this is what we focus on in many of our icebreakers for Exeter online programs. And it's this statement which I've taken from the CAST website, where you'll find the UDL framework. Learners must be able to bring their authentic selves to the learning environment and find connections to what matters most in their lives. And I think a term that we often hear is about personalised learning experiences. And actually, I think this is very much the first step in enabling a personalised learning experience. Now, at Exeter, we're developing asynchronous online master's courses collaboratively with academics. And actually, that gives us the opportunity to really incorporate and apply best pedagogic practice working with them. And I know often in this space, I imagine many of you doing a similar role to myself, it's gaining influence is a real challenge. And actually, I think one of the benefits we've got at Exeter is the way online programs are set up. It is very much a collaborative approach. Now, I think as regards online students, a really common misconception is that they're alone working in a study or bedroom. They're introverts who don't want to work with others. But the reality, certainly we've found, is really, really different. Where we've got online versions of face-to-face courses, most staff comment how much more engaged our online students are. Maybe that's because we embed UDL, but most students that we have appear to want their learning to be a social experience. And the challenge has been to break down the barriers to all of our students. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to share a few I call WAGOLLs. Now, WAGOLLs, it comes from primary education, what a good one looks like. And I think if you want to look for ideas that really support engagement, a setting where teachers typically spend 25 hours a week with a diverse group of 30 students, and they're with those same group of students day in, day out, it's a fantastic place to look for ideas to engage with students. Now, before I'm going to go any further in looking at this in our online programs, it's just to really sort of clarify, we incorporate opportunities for multiple means of engagement, multiple means of action and expression, and that for us is really a given. And actually, for an asynchronous course, that is relatively straightforward for us, particularly as we're in very much a collaborative position with academics. So I'm going to share a few of the sort of inclusive starter activities we've used. First one up is the compass starter, which is, East, what are you excited about? West, what are you worried about? North, what do you need? And South, what's your stance on maybe something in the course? And actually what we're trying to do with this, and this is typically a starter we'll use at the beginning of a module, is we're trying to welcome interests and identities. And actually we're aiming to find out a little bit more about our students so that we can personalize the experience, maybe in their feedback later. But what we're also trying to do is we're trying to break down the barriers between students as well. Now, next, WAGOLL, what's the purpose of education from the module, from an educational psychology module, actually? But what we've got here is just to sort of exemplify, I mean, this is a screenshot from one of our modules. I mean, apart from the fact we show that we don't just have, and this is, I'm going to show you the animation in a second, we don't just have the animation, we also make sure that we've got these slides from the animation for students that prefer that. We've got a text version of it as well at the bottom. So yeah, very much demonstrating that we're very much sort of talking the talk when it comes to UDL. But certainly I'm going to sort of share this with you. So this is a starter that we've used. This is sort of mid-module. And yeah, so what is the purpose of education? So I'm just going to move on, and here we go.
Does this have sound, Mike?
Yeah, but don't worry, it's not playing. But the sound doesn't matter. It's just music,
Okay.
so don't worry. Yeah, so what I tried to demonstrate there, I hope there's a nice bit of sound there, which you missed. I could have hummed along to it as well, which would have maybe made it a little bit more like the real thing. But anyway, so what we've got there is we're using multiple perspectives actually to try and break down the barriers, to really show our students that there are multiple perspectives. There's no right or wrong answer to this. And actually, another way we use multiple perspectives in these starters is we then allow students to respond from the perspectives of others as well, if they feel uncomfortable sharing their own perspectives. And again, what we're doing here is we're trying to welcome different interests and identities. Now, so before I go into this, the final waggle here, I'm just going to say that what we do on our online courses, we divide, I suppose most people probably do, we divide learning up into weekly episodes, and we use icebreakers each week to start those conversations. And actually, it's a little bit like having an extended induction, which is rated as quite important by student surveys shared at that 1KHE conference I mentioned earlier, to avoid loneliness, improve engagement. And actually, it's about giving the students a fresh start every week to actually sort of share something authentic about themselves, get that conversation started with each other. But I think the key thing here, obviously, this isn't earth-shattering in terms of sort of technology, it's a question. But I think it's not always about the tool. What we say as a team is it begins pedagogy first, and it's making sure that we're sort of getting the experience and empathizing with our students. So this waggle here, it's from the module Intro to Statistics, that classic stats for non-statisticians module, which strikes fear into our students' hearts for quite a number of them. And actually what we're starting here with is saying, how do you feel about stats? Have you done it before? Don't worry, no prior knowledge is required for this module. Feel free to ask questions or talk about what you love or hate. Now, I think the key thing here, before I talk about the student responses, why are the student responses so positive to this? It's because we take a programmatic approach to this. This doesn't just happen like every now and then on one module here or there, or one starter here and there. We're doing this every module across the entire program. So every week starts in the same way. So students are used to this, they're comfortable with this. And actually what we're doing is we're trying to sort of build, not just on the module or the week, but on a programmatic level, a space that's really sort of welcoming and non-judgmental. So a few of our responses from our students here, like, yeah, excited and nervous for this module, as many are, feeling apprehensive to start the module as they've never done stats before. Yep. Bit late to the party, but very excited to be here. It's nice reading everyone's stories. It makes me a bit more hopeful. And finally, I have to admit, I'm relieved to see so many people feeling as apprehensive about this module as I am. I think what we're trying to do with this approach here is by taking that programmatic approach to this, we're fostering a space where students can learn, but they can also take risks and share their hopes and fears openly with each other. Now, okay, so part two. So our workshop and poster, and what I'll do, I'll post the link to the poster in the chat shortly. But basically, as a learning design team, we've really increased our focus on incorporating the principles of UDL into our everyday practice over the last 12 months. And this work in particular about inclusive icebreakers developed from several conversations where we were reflecting on UDL, looking at activities we ourselves have been involved with through the lenses of our neurodivergent students, and realised that in many cases they really create barriers to many of our students. Typical examples included sort of sharing sensitive or sharing sensitive personal information, or where we were given no time to prepare. And I think I'd often say to other people, like, surprises really the Christmas and birthdays only. Giving students the chance to get ready and to prepare something that they are comfortable with and not get put on the spot. We found that advice as regards using starters was often technical. It was more about using the polling tool, or whatever tool it was, rather than sort of giving inclusive advice based on sound pedagogy, which is what we've tried to address with this workshop and the poster that we'll share. So I'd say, please take a look at the poster for the advice and for some examples of some improved classic icebreakers, of which the baby photo icebreaker, of which I'm sure that we've all probably been subjected to at some point. And if you reflect on that from a UDL perspective, you can really think about how uncomfortable that probably is for many people that have experienced that activity. But yeah, we'll post the link. And finally, if you've got for any inquiries about this or UDL in general, please sort of reach out to us. We're an open team, and we would love to talk about UDL, icebreakers, or anything else. So the email address is there, and we've got a QR code there as well, which basically, if you'd like to access and contribute to a Padlet, which is already populated with lots of ideas for ensuring icebreakers are inclusive, you can scan that QR code. And lastly, thinking about the bigger picture, and I'm sure that all of us here very much are advocates of inclusive education, about implementing UDL principles in teaching practice so that all learners can be engaged. And actually, thinking about the bigger picture, it's challenging to change everything all at once and getting everybody just to go full UDL on everything. And actually, maybe focusing on icebreakers is achievable, and for maybe an opportunity for some colleagues to see the benefit a UDL approach might bring to all of our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. That was really great. And again, lots of great reactions there. We had 2 questions in the Q&A, and I think I've given the right answer there, Mike. People were asking what you used to make the video. Was that Powtoon?
It is Powtoon, absolutely, yeah. I mean, obviously, we're very much sort of a technology-based webinar, so I thought I'd sort of bring that in. But I think it's not just about doing a nice cartoon, about having that sort of visual effect. It's got a purpose to it. And I think that underlines everything we're trying to do. That Powtoon cartoon had a purpose. It was about allowing opportunity to show our students that there are multiple perspectives, and actually they can come forward and post their own perspective. There should be no barrier to that. So really, I think, it's a nice way of sort of illustrating that. When we do use a tool like Powtoon, there's a purpose for it, and typically it is to try and get our students engaging and talking to each other.
I think that's such a good point, isn't it? I think you have to have that purpose, otherwise students might fall into the kind of the grey area of thinking, why is this here? It's wasting my time, and we don't want that. So everything has to have a purpose. So that was a really great point. I think we've gone through all of the questions. Another one's just popped up. Let me just have a quick look. Edwards asked, is it accessible on YouTube? I think that's what he's put there. We'll come back to that one later, Edward. If you could give us a bit more in the question, that'd be really helpful. If you do have a question for Mike, if you could raise your hand, we do have about a minute or so we've probably got time for one question. We'll leave it a second. I think we're okay. There may be some questions in the chat. Mike, I was wondering if you wouldn't mind just having a quick look through there at some point. If not, we can pull any questions out and we can ping them over to you, so we can get some responses for everyone. But thank you. Another really great talk. Personally, I've really enjoyed all of the talks today, so I just wanted to say a big thank you.